Oh, goodness. I hit the button too soon. That's all right. Sounds like the babies are sleeping. Oops. I had a... That is why we keep it on silent, even though we still end up paying attention to it. So welcome and good evening, everybody. I hope that this night finds you well, and that in the few moments together, we can join heart and soul to create a blanket of peace, a connection of light, heart to heart, soul to soul, mind to mind, with perfection, with goodwill and the willingness to do good. I am going to do a recap. This is the 13th night, and I haven't yet decided if I will do this again tomorrow night or not. Probably will. We'll see as the spirit moves me. So, as a brief history, while I'm waiting for others to actually chime in, the Silent Minute actually has its originations in a pivotal night in the mountains of Jerusalem on the eve of another battle. In 1917, when two young British officers sat together and were speaking of what ifs. And one of the young officers had a realization that that was going to be his final moment. And that his time on the earth was coming near to an end. And he gave a message to the other young officer who becomes Major Wellesley Tudor Pole later on in life. So on the eve, this young man spoke to Officer Pole and what he said was, "I shall not come through this struggle. And like millions of other men in this war, it will be my destiny to go on now. And you will survive, live to see a greater and more vital conflict fought out in every continent and ocean and in the air. When that time comes, remember us. We shall long to play our part wherever we may be. Give us the opportunity to do so, for that war for us will be a righteous war. We shall not fight with material weapons then, but we can help you if you will let us. We shall be an unseen army, mighty. Give us the chance to pull our weight. You will still have time available as your servant. Lend us a moment of it each day, and through your silence, give us an opportunity. The power of silence is greater than you know. When those tragic days arrive, do not forget us." And the next day, the young man speaking was killed, and Wellesley Tudor Pole was severely wounded. But his wounds were quite unique in that there was no major damage that they would have expected, no organ damage, no arterial damage, and no broken bones. He was protected, it seems. It was then that the idea, I should say, of a daily moment of united prayer and silence was born. This becoming known as the Silent Minute, which we are going to be observing here at 9 o'clock, or give or take. During 1940, Great Britain was experiencing the Nazis blitzing People were always in a state of fear and panic. And the bells of Big Ben had been silenced during the war to protect people. So they thought. But it was through now Major Wellesley Tudor Pole and his suggestion, his desires, that he was then supported by King George, Prime Minister Winston Churchill, and the cabinet, along with many other leading figures in church and state. Excuse me. The minute was observed on land, sea, and in the air. It was heard on the battlefields, in air raid shelters, hospitals, and prisons. It cut across all social boundaries. Along with the BBC, Winston Churchill was able to procure the airwaves. And so about a minute or so before the silent minute, before the strike of 9, they began to broadcast Big Ben's bells again. They let them ring. And so that ring for freedom, that ring for hope, that ring for solidarity began. In Britain. And what the officer was quoted as saying was, during the war, you had a secret weapon for which we could find no countermeasure and which we did not understand, but it was very powerful. It was associated with the striking of Big Ben at 9 each evening. I believe you called it the silent minute. It is with that memory, that intent, that signaling of hope that I began my silent minute 13 nights ago. Because I want everyone to have a voice, to have our ancestors that we always feel in our heart present with us, to lend their spirit, their voices, their hearts to spreading peace across the land. And not just here in the United States, but in the many other countries that are experiencing hostilities, fear. So when we take our minute or 3 or 4 to be silent, to breathe and exhale. Remember, we can breathe in, we gotta breathe out. Take that moment into blanketing the planet, really, Mother Earth, in a big, loving, warm hug. That peace fill the hearts of every man, woman, and child. That hope fills them up. That strength and courage, that joy, love, that there is compassion for one another, that there is respect for oneself as well as each other. No one voice is more important than the other, but we should all join together as one voice. And like I say, one heart, one soul, and convey through our silence our loving hearts. And I ask that this peace begins now. In whatever way, shape, or form you are most comfortable, take a nice, slow breath in and then let it out. And not cough. I ask that peace spread out across the planet and that goodwill fill the hearts of every man, woman, and child, and the willingness to do good. Excuse me. Hopefully I didn't shock you with the cough. That just came out of nowhere. Throat tickles, you gotta love them. I wanted to read a poem that I find thought-provoking. It's called If by Rudyard Kipling. In a way, I think having a conversation on fear would be a good thing, because fear cripples many people. And fear tends to really be the enemy, especially because it serves no purpose but to put distance between yourself and knowledge, and awareness, in distance from other people. So, If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stoop and build them up with worn out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and, which is more, you'll be a man, my son. That speaks a lot, I think, to the time at hand. And while I have you here, I'd like to ask a favor of you. If you could put your heart and souls, hello, my dear, and good wishes for healing, for those who are injured, for those who are in pain, for those who sit in fear, for those who illness comes knocking. Let us breathe in and breathe out. And hold them dear into our hearts. That they find peace, they find strength. And I think clarity. We are definitely having a little bit of throat tickles going on. But it's getting better. I say, and then I have to clear my throat. Gotta love it. How are you doing, Angela? Give my love to Mindy, please. And the sisters out there. And one last request, that we all send light, love, peace, and completion, joy, clarity to Peter. Give him strength and courage. And let him find good health and well-being. So I wanted to mention fear just briefly. Fear comes in many guises. We experience it when the unknown arises. We experience it when words are whispered in our ear. And we misconstrue the message. Oftentimes, we hate that which we fear instead of taking time to understand it or looking for the root of the cause, like having a splinter that you cannot see but you can feel it. Every now and then it catches just so. In order to know who the real enemy is, you have to study. You have to be open to other points of view, because it's very simple to misconstrue a word that you don't understand as meaning something altogether different and attributing to it something to disdain, to be afraid of. And don't be afraid of your past. Our past is the building blocks that got us to today. Instead, address it. Look at it with somber eyes and an educated heart and an open mind. See, every thought that's ever been thunk still exists. It's out there. It's energy. Energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It exists in all places, in all times, in all dimensions. Of course, that kind of gets into the metaphysics and even deeper into quantum mechanics, but we are energy. We produce 1.4 volts of electricity in every cell. We possess about 50 trillion cells. That's over 70 trillion volts of electricity that our body is physically capable of generating. It runs our brain, it runs our heart, it runs our mechanics, our movements, our ability to experience pain, to think a thought, to remember the past, to dream the future, It sends signals when we've stubbed our toe up to the brain and then back down. Ow, that hurts. That energy creates the chair we sit on, the table we work at, the flying machine of Michelangelo dreamed in a 20-minute span, a flag that waves over our capital that represents decades and decades of lives lost fighting for our country in whatever country we're in, because there's been conflict all over. The energy that's here that we can feel when we hold a baby or a puppy or a kitten or a long lost friend that we haven't seen in ages, or one we saw just yesterday. And our heart expands and it blossoms with this joy because we love one another, just like I love you. It's all good. And where love is, there's no room for fear. You ever listen to an old dog breathe when they're sleeping, just on that edge of kind of like a snore? My big boy is over here, calmly breathing. And I hear the ticky-ticky of little feet. You coming over here, Grace? Or are you going to go back in your hole? She opted for her hole. Thank you all for being here, for being part of my stream. Thumbs up if you can. Share it out. I will eventually get all of this edited and then moved over to the new channel where I plan on having a once-a-week meditation, lessons on spirituality, metaphysics, even on cooking that's good for the heart, good for the soul. And a healing night where we can place the names of people that we would like to focus healing towards. We can put it in the chat. I'm imagining that I may flip us over to the new channel by next week. Cross your fingers and toes. I did that too, but actually my feet. Thank you again. I love you. Give my love to Mindy. And to the sisters, I love you both. Mitakuye Washin. Night, everyone.